we'll wait till 5 after just to see if we have anybody else. We appreciate you being here today. Okay, so my name is Dailey Electric, and I'm the campaign director for HeatSmart Southern Tier. And this is a program of NEST, which is the Network for a Sustainable Tomorrow, a nonprofit organization. We were previously known as BRISC, or Binghamton Regional Sustainability Coalition. We've done programs in the past such as Southern Tier Solar Works, Binghamton Community Power. So those are some names that you might have heard over the years. And I'm joined here by our Director of Clean Energy Programs, Adam Flint, and then a couple of interns, Olivia and Matt, and you'll be hearing from them. I apologize, I have a dog working from home environment. And we also have some of our installer partners, which you'll hear from a little bit later. So next slide, please. Okay, so this is just shows, our webinar schedule. I do apologize, it's a bit small, and we'll have other opportunities for you to see this, or if you put in the comments, we can email you a copy of this. But this is just our webinar schedule from now until the end of August. We're doing a few different styles of events. There's going to be some case studies with folks who have gotten systems put in. There's like a low to moderate income focus for some of them. We have a commercial focus for some. So there's lots of things happening. So I would encourage you to look at this if you fall into any of those categories and would like to learn more, go more in depth with a specific technology. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so just as I mentioned, the Network for a Sustainable Tomorrow, it's a nonprofit community-based network of programs. We really focus on, renewable energy and kind of debunking the myths and kind of educating the public about the incentives available and, to help aid in that transition to clean energy. And so HeatSmart Southern Tier is the program that we're focused on right now and what you'll hear more about. So at this point, I will transition over to our intern, Olivia, who will take you through the first half of the presentation.
Adam, if you just want to move to the next slide, please. Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. So here's just a little overview of what we'll be talking about today. First, we'll be getting into what HeatSmart is and why HeatSmart may be right for you. We'll then be getting into the technologies, first weatherization and then heat pump technologies. After that, our other intern, Matt, will be taking over and he'll be taking you through the financing and incentives and how you can participate in our HeatSmart program. And then after that, we'll be finishing up with community solar, and you can save any questions you have for the end. Next slide. So HeatSmart Southern Tier, we operate in Broome, Tioga, Chenango, and Delaware counties, and we are one of several pilot campaigns that are funded by NYSERDA. We work to connect the public to clean heating and cooling and energy efficiency experts in the area. We also work to educate the public about sustainable heating and cooling systems, as well as answer any questions that you may have about heat pumps or the installation process overall. Next slide. Where are we now? Listed below are the 5 main sources of greenhouse gas emissions in New York State. Transportation is one of the largest emitters, but building, heating, and cooling follows behind close second because over 90% of households in New York State use fossil fuels as their primary source of heating and cooling rather than a clean energy alternative. So this is kind of the reason why our program does what we do. We are essentially working to minimize these emissions in our state through clean heating and cooling technologies. Next slide. So some of the benefits of our program include reducing energy costs, either immediately or over time, improving the overall comfort and safety of your home, reducing the amount of greenhouse gas emissions your home produces. And I think that it's also important to mention the need for creating more community awareness about programs such as HeatSmart Southern Tier, because if we want to promote sustainability and healthy living in our communities, then we need to implement more clean and efficient energy systems moving forward. Next slide. Some of the technologies that we help to promote through our program are weatherization, as well as ground source and air source heat pumps, and also heat pump hot water heaters. And we'll be getting more in depth with these technologies and kind of what they all do in the next few slides. Next slide. So here at HeatSmart, we're partnered with a couple energy saving installers who actually are the ones that implement these technologies for you. We have AirSource LLC and D&D Refrigeration, and they take care of our air source heat pump needs. Dailey Geothermal works with ground source heat pump installation, and then we also have the installation man who deals with home insulation and our home energy assessments. All these partners were competitively selected through NYSERDA, and so we only have the best of the best. Next slide. So the first step before you install a heat pump in your home is weatherization, and that is basically the precautions that you can take to help protect the interior of your home and make it more comfortable. For example, if your home is very drafty, installing insulation would be an example of weatherization. It's important because it assists with reducing energy consumption, helping to optimize energy efficiency in your home. It reduces costs. It also increases home safety and home comfort. Next slide, please. So this next slide shows a mock-up of a home. As you can see, it illustrates the areas where air is most likely to enter or exit the home. Usually it happens through the basement and through the attic. So basically through a home energy assessment and through weatherization, the installation man would help to seal up the areas where air most commonly leaks from. And then after that, you'd be able to get a heat pump installed in your home. Next slide. Now we'll be moving on to heat pump technologies. What is a heat pump? So a traditional heating system typically burns fossil fuels in order to heat up your home. But the way that a heat pump works is it doesn't create heat, but it instead transfers heat to or from the air, ground, and water, and it will transfer it into the inside of your home. So usually heat pumps will bring in heat during the winter months and then pull heat out of your home during the summer months. And this technology is very similar to what we see in our own air conditioners and refrigerators in our homes. Next slide. This is just a breakdown of the different heat pump technologies that are offered out there. Ground source heat pumps can do it all in terms of space heating and cooling and hot water heating. On the other hand, air source heat pumps are only capable of space heating and cooling, and heat pump water heaters are only capable to heat water, can't heat the air. Next slide. So with ground source heat pumps, they are usually a closed loop system of pipes. They look somewhat like the images above, and they are usually put underground beside your house or in your backyard, wherever you have space for it. They can either be put in vertically or horizontally, but horizontal systems are a much cheaper option because they're installed closer to the surface and they don't require as much digging as the vertical wells. To know what type is best for your home, it's important that you get a home energy assessment first. Next slide. So there's a lot of benefits of installing ground source heat pumps. Not only are they good for the environment, your home, and your energy bill, but they can also eliminate fossil fuels completely from your home. They can heat water in addition to air, and they last a very long time. Usually the heat pump itself will last about 15 to 20 years, and the ground loop pipes can last up to about 50 years. Next slide. Air source heat pumps are the other type of heat pump that are offered. They are a ductless system and they do not require underground pipes like the ground source heat pumps. They work really similarly to an air conditioner. However, they can also run in reverse order to provide heat for the home. So as you can see here, there's a lot of different styles. So the design of these can vary depending on how much you want to spend and what your aesthetic preferences are. Next slide. I will mention that air source heat pumps are a little bit less efficient than ground source heat pumps, but they still do provide substantial energy savings compared to non-gas fuels. There's a lot of benefits to them because the system is really flexible. You don't need to do a full heating replacement. You could just provide heating control room to room instead. And they're also quite quiet, which is nice. Next slide. In addition to air source and ground source heat pumps, I mentioned heat pump water heaters, and these are basically an electric water heater with an air source heat pump attached to the top. These use indoor air to heat the water, and they'll usually have a backup when they need to meet high demands. Some of the benefits of these are that they're more efficient than a traditional water heater, but they do cost a little bit more. They also provide dehumidification, but it's important that you install them in an appropriate space because they need air in order to work well. Next slide. So now I'll be passing it over to our other intern, Matt, and he'll be taking you through the incentives and financing that are currently available for these technologies.
Thank you, Olivia. If we could go on to the next slide, please. Thank you. So on here is just some of the incentives and financing that we have for air source heat pumps. If you are doing a room or two, which would be the partial load rebate, it's $500 per outdoor unit and less $100 to the contractor per unit. If you were doing a full load rebate, it would be $1,000 per 10,000 BTU. And the average could be around 40,000 BTU or $4,000. But this could be waived depending on how the job looks. Moving on to ground source heat pumps is a full load technology, and it is $1,500 per 10,000 BTU. And you can see below what is available for heat pump water heaters in terms of that. Next slide, please. So currently, ground source heat pump, the tax credit for ground source heat pumps is 22%. And with these incentives and financing that I will continue to go through, if you sign a contract during this calendar year or before their expiration dates, you can still take advantage of incentives like this. Next slide. So NYSERDA currently has 3 different loan products, all at fixed rates of 5, 10, and 15 years up to $25,000. And its companion loan, which is one of these, allows for another $25,000 that you can draw on if your total cost after the incentives exceeds the previous $25,000. And the companion loan is an unsecured loan with a fixed rate, and the interest rate depends on your income. So if you were below 200% of the area median income, you would then be eligible for 3.49%. And if you're above that, it's 6.99%. The on-bill recovery loan is more stringent in terms of payback, but the nice thing about it is that it lives on your utility bill, which can make it easier for you to transfer the debt to a new owner if you were to sell your home. There's also a variety of unsecured loans through companies like Enerbank and Synchrony, and you can also go to your own bank or credit union to see what they may have available. Next slide, please. So these next 2 slides that we'll talk about is about income eligibility programs. The first one is assisted home performance with Energy Star. This program can provide up to 50% of project costs for those eligible with a limit of $5,000 for single family units and $10,000 for 2 to 4 unit multifamily buildings. This means if you were a landlord of a small multifamily, you could take advantage of this incentive based on the income of your tenant if they were to qualify. This program usually requires that you are lesser to or equal to 80% of the area median income. Next slide. So the Empower program is a free program, and those who are receiving benefit programs like HEAP can take advantage of this program. You have to pay your own utility bill in order to do this, and free assessment and efficiency improvements are part of this. And heat pumps are now part of this program as well. Next slide. Next slide, please. There's also another brand new incentive for homeowners under 80% of the area median income. It'll cover products up to 60,000 BTU of heating and 1 to 4 unit residential buildings only. At this point, natural gas homes are not eligible for this, only homes that include heat pumps. Next slide. So the process for participating in any of these technologies that we've covered, it includes that you have to sign up for a home energy assessment, and this can be involved with 1, 2, or all 3 of the technologies. A beauty of this collaboration that we have is all of our installer partners, they work very well with each other. And oftentimes, if one contractor is at an audit and it becomes clear another heat pump technology may be better, they will refer the homeowner to their counterpart with the homeowner's approval. You can sign up for assessments at our website at nynest.org, and you will get a call from the contractor that you have chosen. You will then get a quote, and if you decide to go forward, you can sign a contract. Next slide. Now I will turn to our community shared solar program. Typically, solar has one array benefiting one individual or one entity. But in the case of community solar, it can benefit multiple people. How this works is as a subscription. We are fortunate to have Broome County's first large scale community shared solar system in the town of Chenango with 6 megawatts and 40 acres. Our partners, Citizens Energy Corporation, have helped to develop this project. The way it works is you receive credits for the amount of solar that you are subscribed to, and this can be calculated based on how much electricity you are currently using. So the net result of this is that your energy bills for over the course of a year could be 20% less than they are now. Next slide. In order to make this happen, you must live in an area that is NYSEG service territory, but is really easy to join this program. The way you sign up is either online or over the phone with Citizens Energy, and we can pass along your information to them. The process can be very quick, and the only additional information they would need is a recent utility bill from NYSEG. But there's no entry or exit fee. And once they get the information from you, they can put it in their queue. And every month they will send a list of new subscribers to NYSEG, and they have 60 days to get that onto your bill. At this point, you would be going to receive 2 bills. One of them is from NYSEG and the other one is from Citizens. And the net effect of these 2 bills is that your NYSEG bill is going to go down by a lot, and the Citizens bill is only going to make up 80% over the course of a year. We say over the course of a year because in the summer, you are going to be producing more electricity than you need. And so those summer credits can then roll over to the months during the winter where there is less sunlight. Next slide. So again, this is just our webinar schedule for our new webinar series. So feel free to come to any of our following events. We have another one coming up this Monday. So stay tuned for that. Next slide. I will now pass it back off to our director, Haley Delisle.
Okay, thank you, Matt and Olivia. So now we'll do just a few brief minutes. We'll hear from each of our installer partners, and they'll talk about their technology and their company a little bit more in depth. So we'll start with Dave Tierno of The Installation Man. Or I'm sorry, Dave Tierno of AirSource LLC. I apologize. So Dave, if you're available to unmute.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me? Hey, Haley,
You're good to go.
Okay, hang on. Sorry, we're working in an attic right now. Yeah, so I'm Dave Tierno. My company's AirSource LLC. Let me see. I don't think video would probably be a good idea right now, but we can try it. Or am I on? Hang on.
You are on.
I am. Okay.
This is very real world live stuff. It's good.
Yeah, sorry. I'll turn my light off here. So AirSource heat pump technology, that's what we specialize in. You heard a few advantages of ground source, which is great technology. A few advantages of our technology is basically it's extremely versatile, doesn't require a distribution system. So you don't need to have ductwork. You don't need to have any radiant heat. There are some limitations with Geo when it comes to radiant, as far as, you have to have sufficient distribution in the house to be able to emit the amount of BTUs because the water temperature is lower, that type of thing. So we don't have any of those restrictions. We don't have to dig up the yard, drill wells. It's a lower cost solution. And it is, depending on the equipment, efficiencies are variable. So, we can't really make generalized statements about what is or isn't. There is some advantages certainly to geothermal, there's unquestionably. But we do air source in brand new construction. It's the sole source of heat. It's a full load system. It can be partial load, it can be full load. And a heat pump hot water heater is air source technology. So it's capable of doing, that would be a separate system. Yeah, so I've been doing this for over a decade now. This is what we specialize in. We're honored to be a part of the HeatSmart Southern Tier now for a few years. And we enjoy bringing this technology. This customer's house we're in right now is a HeatSmart customer. And we're doing a full, actually an energy retrofit, which when we started installing here, we noticed the wall cavities were actually empty. And the infrared camera had shown that it looked like they were insulated and they weren't. So that's going to be a nice improvement for the house to have the wall cavities filled and the attic's going to get treated. So the customer's going from basically burning oil with a really old furnace and basically mostly an uninsulated house to an insulated house with an air source heat pump system. So they're going to be far more comfortable and far more energy efficient and not burning any fossil fuels. I mean, burning stuff in a basement's just not really where we want to be or where we're going. So we love what we do. We're passionate about it. And I'm going to turn it over to my main man or to someone over there, Dailey, if Ryan's available.
So we have Leah on from Dailey Electric. If you want to talk a little bit about your company. I guess we'll give Leah just a minute and we'll switch over to Jess over at the Installation Man.
Hey everybody, my name is Jess and my company is the Installation Man. We focus on energy efficiency and insulation needs of the residents. We come through and Our auditor will do a comprehensive assessment of the home to determine insulation needs and anywhere where the house may be leaking out energy. You definitely don't want your warm air going out in the winter, and you don't want your cold air going out in the summertime. And then from there, we come up with a plan with the homeowner to, make the required upgrades that are needed to be able to get a heat pump installed. We also take care of the paperwork aspect as far as getting people the audit, getting the grants approved, and stuff like that. So, we focus on, the administrative end and the energy efficiency end of having a heat pump put in.
Okay, awesome. So now we will hear from Leah, and she called in. So just give me one moment and I will. Leah, if you can hear this, I think you have to hit *69 to unmute. Adam, if you're able to unmute them.
I can only ask her to unmute. I can't actually do it.
Adam, you there?
Yep, we can
Can
hear
you
you
hear me,
now.
Haley?
Yep, go ahead.
Yes.
Hey, it's Ryan. Sorry about that. We were having a little technical difficulty there.
Yeah, if you want to just give the quick spiel about Dailey, and then actually the first question up is from Zev, who asked, what's the efficiency difference between vertical and horizontal? So maybe you can go right from talking about Dailey into that.
Sure. So my name's Ryan Dailey. I own Dailey Electric up in Penn Yan. We're a small business with 20 guys. Half of them do just strictly geothermal installations. The other guys do plumbing, electric, and we do AirSource also up here, not down there around Dave. We install water furnace products in mainly new construction homes and retrofits. That's pretty much the main focus of our business is geothermal and AirSource. Business started by my dad in the late 90s, and I took over in the early 2000s, and we've grown to about 700 geothermal installations at this point. So, yeah, moving on to that, Adam, I was just saying about that. We're talking, the main difference is that when you design a water to air geothermal system, you design for 32-degree incoming water temperature. Most people think that it's 55 all year, but it's not. It's designed for 32 and 75 to 80 in the summer. The vertical boreholes will, generally speaking, drop to that temperature very quickly and stay right there. They hit rate whatever the design temperature is. They stay at that temperature pretty consistently all the way through till spring. And then they turn around and start rejecting, and they move back up. The horizontal loop fields have a tendency to be a little more erratic. They will say they're designed for 32. We'll see 34 when it's a little decent out. And then if we get a heavy load on it, it may drop down to 27, 28, and then bounce back up. And it kind of looks like a W across a graph, where the vertical boreholes will be more steady right across the line. And then the horizontal will stay at a higher temperature longer in the fall because of the, depending on the ground, I shouldn't say that, but depending on the soil conditions. But very, very little difference truly between the two of them in efficiencies until you get into humongous systems. Did that help, Adam?
Yes, Zev response. Got it. Thanks.
Okay, so now we'll transition into a Q&A section. So You can still put your questions in the chat, or you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask them. We do have all of our installer partners on, and myself and Adam can help answer questions as well.
I have a question for Dave, if he's still there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Dave, I was wondering, could you just talk a little bit about what maintenance is like for air source heat pumps once someone gets them installed in their home? How often should somebody service it?
It's a good question. It really depends on the house. I mean, I have customers that go 4 years with zero maintenance other than cleaning the filters, which is something that the homeowner does themselves, which is really easy. Some customers require service occasionally every year. I've noticed it mostly depends on how much the unit is used in cooling, and how continuous. So someone that uses it all year, they never turn it off, it's used for cooling, and it's loaded pretty good, then that needs to be serviced every year. But most of my customers, I would say the average is probably about 2 to 3 years, somewhere in there. And Mitsubishi's recently come out with a new coating that they're putting on all their units to basically decrease the amount of buildup on the indoor coil and on the fan tenfold. So if that performs the way their testing has showed, it's going to dramatically decrease the amount, the need for service on indoor units. And that's pretty much what it is. They're highly reliable systems. It basically amounts to just keeping the indoor units clean. They do. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you have an air conditioning system, it's got moist air, darkness, and organic matter in the air. There's going to be some organic stuff that accumulates on the coil or in the fan, that type of thing. So, but for the most part, I would say 2 to 3 years, and we're pretty well versed in it. It's not a big deal to come in. We do the cleaning, and then zone by zone. I show some homeowners how to inspect and see if it needs to be cleaned, so that they're not relying on. I don't really like scheduling someone every year for cleaning, because sometimes we show up and the equipment's like new, so it doesn't make any sense to clean something and cost someone money when it doesn't really need it. So it's a pretty simple thing to inspect for. So yeah, I would say average 2 to 3 years. It just there's a couple different methods we use, but it ultimately results in an indoor unit that's clean, and a basic check of the system, and making sure the outdoor unit is still in place and level, and so on and so forth. So pretty basic stuff.
Awesome, thank you. So about 2 to 3 years for an air source system. I'll pass it to Ryan now. Could you tell me what it's like to maintain a ground source system? Is it less maintenance because it's a more expensive system, or is it more maintenance?
It's inside, so we generally do once a year maintenance on them. The first year we always go back to a system. The main thing in servicing is checking the loop pressures, especially in a pressurized flow center situation. They vary from spring to summer to fall, so you want to make sure the first year that everything's good, and you boost them and everything. Change filters. Checking the internals of the system is not what it used to be. It used to be a much more detailed process. Now it's not, because we can monitor most everything that happens inside the units from our office. So after the first year, there are a lot of people that don't have us service anything because they can change the filters themselves. They're all washable filters. But we still service a lot. Water to water units require more maintenance, more hands-on maintenance. Still once a year thing, but there's more stuff to check over and service in them. But the water to air units, there's really not a whole lot of stuff on them.
Awesome, thanks, Ryan.
Any other questions? I do want to note that if you have any like specific your home questions, you can feel free to email us, info@newyorknest.org, and we can get the correct installer the answer to your question.
So I wanted to actually build on that last question. Ryan, can you talk a little bit about the remote monitoring capacity that Water Furnace has? And
Yeah.
And I forgot the other thing.
So it's called
Why don't we
Symphony.
start with that?
Yeah, it's called Symphony Web Platform. It's right now it's in all 5 and 7 series units. The 3 series unit, we can sort of see basic information. You can't really delve into the inside of the unit. As far as in the water units, we can see a fair amount of stuff, not as much as we'd like to yet, but that's coming probably by the end of this year, I would say. What it allows us to see, it shows every sensor and every parameter inside the unit every 10 seconds we see. So you essentially have a smartphone in front of you, and you can see how much energy the unit's using. You can change the temperature. You can set it in vacation mode. You can see loop temperatures, air temperatures, basic information the homeowner can see. We can go in, change air speeds, change compressor speeds. We can do anything that we can do at the site. We can do remotely, but it also saves us a lot of problems if we get a bad sensor, we get an FP1 sensor, say, going on the incoming water temperature. We can look it up before we even leave and verify that the sensor is truly bad. Or is it lost flow? Has there been some other issue? We can see remotely. So that's a huge advantage for us with those units. We can also adjust the unit. Somebody calls and has maybe a unit that the airflow's a little bit noisy for them. We can adjust it remotely without having to make a trip out from wherever we're at, or you do it on a Sunday night for that matter, you know, and you can always see what the units are doing. So it's real nice.
So I'll just mention to anyone who might not be able to watch the chat that Scott Smith, who's our project manager from NYSERDA, who's listening in, just put a link in about published data from 50 ground source heat pump systems in the state of New York, which I have not myself seen either. So we can make sure that goes out with the notes. Do we have other questions from our audience here? So I will ask one for Jess, the Insulation Man. What is the most commonly frequently asked question that you get from customers that we haven't actually talked about? You may be on mute.
Yeah, I guess the most commonly asked question that I get from customers right now is, you know, what is the difference between an air source and a ground source heat pump? You know, at that point, you know, and I've had a few people that I've told, you know, I can't sway you either way. You know, the unit for your property is going to depend on the property itself. So, you know, a lot of other times people will ask, you know, well, you know, I have fiberglass batting up in my attic. Would this work for the NYSERDA standards? And it really doesn't. You know, the pink rolls of fiberglass are not great as far as R value or, you know, being able to stop air from going around them. So, you know, a lot of it is just, you know, logistics on either the property itself or, you know, what kind of pump would be better for them.
Thanks. And just another question. You've mentioned that you have your first customer that's gone through the process of the adder program for low and moderate income customers. And I'm wondering if you could just say a little bit about, you know, what that looks like if somebody qualifies either for Empower or Assisted Home Performance. They give you a call. how different, if at all, is that from just calling you regardless? What are the benefits? I know we went over them, but we went over a lot, so it probably wouldn't hurt to look at that again. And I could put the slide back also.
Yeah, if you want to put the slide back, I can definitely kind of expand on it a little bit more. So yeah, I mean, the pilot program is a completely different section. The funds are coming, from another part of NYSERDA. So, we usually have the Empower approval back for insulation and energy efficiency upgrades before the heat pump comes back. And that's only because it has to be justified of what the money is being spent on. So, we work tirelessly in order to get the approval back for these customers. And, we're so happy that we're actually been able to get somebody in. It's a little bit more, administrative work on our end, but it's nothing too bad that can't be handled by the people in the office.
And the benefits are pretty healthy, right? Since there's yeah.
Yeah, they are. The customers that we just got the approval back for have no out-of-pocket cost on their heat pump between the NYSEG incentives and the NYSERDA adder program. They were able to get their entire heat pump covered.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, this is a home that was their primary source of heating was wood. They have a wood stove in the house, and they're a couple that's not in their younger years anymore. So health and safety was definitely a big concern for them because he was still going out and cutting wood all the time in order to be able to heat their house. So now they'll be able to have that luxury of having that heating system come in. He won't be out cutting wood all the time. They don't have to worry about, the normal health stuff that comes along with that. So, as far as their case, it's definitely going to be a big benefit to them.
Thanks very much, Jess. Back to you, Haley.
Okay, so just a reminder, any specific questions, you can feel free to reach out to us at info@newyorknest.org. There is a recording of this webinar that will be posted to our website. We're also happy to email that if you would like. And the next step, if you were interested in wanting to get a quote for your home, would be to go to newyorknest.org and click sign up, and that gets the ball rolling to get a free quote for any or all of the technologies. And with that, if there are no more questions, we can wrap up this meeting, and feel free to reach out to us. I'd like to thank you all for joining as well.